This is the Sergio Rodriguez Show.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sergio Rodriguez Show, a show unlike any other. Our guest today needs no introduction. The man has a month that he dominates. It's called March, and his name is Joe Lunardi. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing great, Sergio.
Joe, listen, I guess before we get started, let's start right here. Has the NCAA really come up with a game plan for the tournament, or are they still going back and forth with this?
I think that, like everything these days, it's a moving target. They want to have 68 teams. They want to have them all in Indianapolis. They want it to be in March. And that's about all we know. It's not going to be, if they are able to have the full field, it's not going to be the kind of thing where, if you win 2 games and advance to the second weekend, where, you're going to go home. Correct. And then go back to a site like you would in a normal calendar, or if you make the Final Four, that you're going to leave and go back a week later someplace else. Like, I think it'll be compressed. And I'm not saying that with any inside information. It's just the only thing that makes sense, right? Like if you're going to put 68 teams in one location and just send the ones home as they're eliminated, it would make no sense to have a winner leave and come back.
Correct.
Right? Because not just because of the travel, but because I guess whenever you leave whatever the safe environment is, you're, exposing your team and others to additional risks with the virus.
Correct. Correct. And realistically,
by then somehow, everybody involved has been vaccinated. I'm sure they're tracking that, but none of the media reports that I've seen, would have that level of, protection that far down the food chain, if you will. I don't think anyone is calling college basketball players essential personnel.
Correct. And you know what? Realistically, the only weekend that becomes a logistical problem for them in terms of teams getting practice time and finding availability of gyms, it would be the first weekend, because after you get to 16, you can accommodate those teams.
I would think. And, but by the same token, because Indy has so frequently been a Final Four venue, they're pretty used to a large influx of people on a pretty short turnaround time. They're just not all players and fans. Or, like at the Final Four, you'd have 4 teams, but you might have, 200,000 other people affiliated with the sport coming in. All the coaches from all levels that have their convention, all the, sponsorship and corporate people, all the ones that do entertaining and major sporting events. So, there's definitely enough hotel space and hospitality space. And frankly, if you think about it, in a typical first weekend of the NCAA tournament, there are 8 venues, right? 4 on Thursday, Saturday, and 4 on Friday, Sunday.
Correct.
Well, theoretically, you only need 4 venues, because you can play 4 straight days at the same venue with different teams, right?
True.
And clearly there are that many venues. I mean, I just think of the schools in the area, Butler and IUPUI, and there's the University of Indianapolis, which is a high-level Division II program, and that's not even counting the pro arenas and facilities. Heck, in Indiana, there like 7,000 seat high school gym.
Correct.
And there aren't going to be any fans. They can play in somebody's driveway for that matter.
I guess you're right. You're right. Well, I mean, we'll wait and see how that works out. I think it's a good idea to get them all together so you don't run the risk of having the virus become a factor in the results of the game.
Yeah, I guess unless a team gets there and then can't compete for some reason due to testing protocols on site, right? So, like, do they send a couple of the first four out, to take the place of teams, or forfeits declared? Like, all of that is to be determined.
Well, and you will determine who the first four out is.
I'll do my best.
All right, well, let's talk some basketball here. All right. One of the interesting things yesterday that I noticed when I looked at the top 25 was that there's not one mid-major in that top 25. Now, Gonzaga is in a mid-major league, but they're not a mid-major. And Houston, I mean, I guess if you want to count the AAC in that, but I'm talking about the traditional Missouri Valley team. There's not one team like that. And it's weird because it's a year where a lot of the traditional Blue Bloods are not dominating. You would expect to see more mid-majors. What's going on?
Well, I just don't think that there have been enough chances for them to play against high majors to get ranked, right? Like, a lot of these holiday tournaments, for instance, where you get neutral court games between, I don't know,
Western Kentucky and somebody, yeah.
And, LSU. Like, those games, for the most part, haven't taken place. And, we haven't seen an opportunity. Like, I'm like you. I don't, certainly not Gonzaga, but I don't count the Americans. I don't count the Atlantic 10. St. Louis and Richmond have both been ranked. Richmond was ranked in the coaches poll this week. So, I don't think teams from leagues that are multi-bid leagues every year are really mid-majors by my definition.
Correct. Me neither. Me neither. We're on the same page with that.
If you're talking Western Kentucky, if you're talking Loyola Chicago, if you're talking, Furman, Winthrop, those kinds of teams, for the most part, they haven't had opportunities against high major competition. I mean,
I think Mercer is very good, Joe. I think Mercer is very good.
Yeah. The number of non-conference games is down, and that's just the cost of doing business this year, and it's not going to change.
The AAC is going to obviously get Houston. St. Louis is really good. I got a chance to watch them again the other night against Minnesota. Richmond stubbed their toe, but I think that Richmond, because of that league, they'll play themselves in. The AAC, will they get 3 teams, you think?
I think not. I think both the AAC and the A10 have 3rd, 4th, 5th teams that are pretty good. But I don't know that they'll separate enough to have lock at-large resumes, whether it's, SMU or Central Florida making a push here. Dayton, VCU, Davidson, teams like that in the Atlantic 10. They're all capable of, winning 7, 8 in a row to be in the at-large conversation. I just don't know how likely it is.
Speak to me about the ACC. Louisville gets spanked the other day by Wisconsin. Florida State gets beat by UCF over the weekend. And there's just no one in that league that's really popping. I guess, North Carolina loses on the road last night to NC State. Duke, I'm sure these teams will be good or better. as the season goes on. I think the one thing that COVID has taught us is how good guys like Roy Williams, guys like Calipari are when it comes to coaching. We always give them props for recruiting, but you can see the difference when they don't have the opportunity to actually get in there in September and do individuals with these players. I mean, and it's showing a lot in the ACC.
And it's certainly showing a lot in Lexington, Kentucky. To your point, I don't know if it's coaching acumen or simply the absence of a normal offseason and a normal preseason run-up, right? And, teams that lose guys or are quarantined for a period and don't play for a while, they're kind of starting over. And then, you throw Louisville on the court against a veteran Wisconsin team, and they just get trucked, and I think we're seeing that from time to time. I think the larger picture with the ACC is best explained by the fact that in our latest bracketology, there's not a single ACC team on the top 4 lines.
Wow.
There's 8 of them in the field, but it's quantity, not quality necessarily. Not saying it can't happen for Duke. Not saying it can't happen for Florida State or Carolina or whomever. The most impressive ACC team has probably been Clemson.
Yeah.
At least to this point, and okay, well, this is a year to expect the unexpected, like Kentucky being 1-5.
The Big Ten is going to get a bunch of teams. I mean, they're definitely going to get 6 or 7 locks. And, they have a couple of other teams that if they can put something together, they can get in because they're going to have a lot of shots in the league. Rutgers, Iowa, Wisconsin. I mean, we could go on and on. They're going to have a bunch of teams. So you could be that 8th or 9th team, but you can build up a phenomenal resume because you're going to have a lot of chances.
No question. And that's always the advantage for, the power conferences over everybody else is opportunity. And the little, dirty little secret in there is not only are there many, many more opportunities, half of them at minimum are usually at home, right? Because in league play, you play an even number of home and away games. So
correct.
Even even Northwestern gets to host Michigan State, right?
100%.
Like it or not, it'll be less this year, but for the most part, home teams win over 70% of the time in Division I college basketball, and that happens for a reason, because being the road team is really hard, and that builds up, in my opinion, artificially, a lot of power conference resumes of schools that get more credit than they should, because those home games are evaluated too highly, in my view.
Speak to me about the job that Peichel's done at Rutgers, man. I'll tell you,
Yeah.
That place was always a very difficult place to play when everything was equal. They always seemed to get people there, even in years that they weren't great, obviously, where they weren't even good. They still found a way to be competitive at home. But now they have talent, coaching, and when the fans start coming back to Rutgers, oh my Lord.
Yeah, that was one of the best games of the year on Sunday against Illinois, and they're at Ohio State, Wednesday night. If they go to 3-0 in the league, that's going to really give them a starting off point when we get to January, because there aren't going to be a lot of 3-game winning streaks in the Big Ten this year.
Yep. How good is the Big 12? I mean, I watch Kansas. They're deficient, in my opinion. Texas Tech, McClung's really going to help them. But even last night's game, they gave up 4 offensive rebounds and almost could have gone to overtime in that game. How good is that league?
I think it's great at the top, at least. And I don't think you can say enough good things about Kansas on the court.
Correct.
Now, whatever happens with their off-court stuff, that is not my department. What you can say is, I did one of their games against St. Joe's back over Thanksgiving, and I'm still one of the St. Joe's broadcasters out of Philly. And, this is a rebuilding St. Joe's program, and they were stride for stride with Kansas until about 6-7 minutes left and ran out of gas. And you would have thought that Kansas was going to finish 5th in the league. And, then they played Gonzaga, and obviously that was early, and they were overmatched. And since then, taking on all comers, beating everybody, and beating West Virginia, they were up 20 at one point. This is not a Kansas team filled with lottery picks. It's just a team that's improving every time out. And maybe that explains why in 18 years, Bill Self has been a number 1 seed 9 times.
No, he can coach, and they can definitely recruit. I saw your bracketology, if you will, at this point in the season, and you're a little higher on 2 leagues than I am. The Pac-12 and the SEC. Let's start with the Pac-12 first. I only see Oregon and Arizona State. You are strong or higher on that league. Why?
Well, I think you're just counting UCLA.
Okay. Mickey Cronin can coach, and we know that they're going to be competitive. I think he needs another year.
Well, maybe so, but I would to be a national level contender.
Correct.
But, they're going to make the tournament.
Okay.
And Oregon's going to make the tournament. Colorado is going to make the tournament.
Colorado's good. You're right. I apologize. Colorado is good.
And the best player in the league is the big kid at Stanford, De Silva, Oscar De Silva. And I think they're going to make the tournament. So that's 5 teams.
All right.
Yeah. I'm not saying that there's going to be a lot of Pac-12 flag waving at the Final Four. And they're going to be there.
All right. I get that. Now, the SEC, to me, it's Missouri, Tennessee, and everybody else. I don't see – I know Kentucky, I think, will fatten up their win column in the league because the league, to me, is weak. Alabama's competitive. But I saw you had more teams in from the SEC than the Big East.
But I have 3 Big East teams right knocking on the door: Providence, Seton Hall, and Marquette. So like 2 or 3 of them are going to make. There's going to be movement. And sometimes the bubble just breaks in a certain way in a certain week to favor one league over another. Tennessee is Final Four good. Missouri is dramatically better than they've been for a long time. Florida took a huge hit. Just the basketball part of the story with Keontae Johnson. It's their best player.
Correct.
If Kentucky was 5-1 instead of 1-5, would we say the SEC is down?
No. I've never.
No, right. They're right what they're supposed to be. So
yeah, I guess you're right.
I do think they'll get it together.
Two more things before we finish up. The Big East is always competitive, always, 9 teams that can beat you on any given night. Providence goes into Seton Hall and wins there. Connecticut, should have knocked off Creighton the other day, which would have gotten Creighton off to a 1-2 start in the league. Xavier looks a lot better than a lot of people think. Run me down. And I'm not even going to talk about my squad at St. John's. Forget about I think that all the new kids are going to take Mike Anderson again until mid-January, February, to at least get them to finish somewhere in that 6, 7, 8 spot this year. But the league is better than a lot of people thought going in.
I think it's deeper.
Correct.
I think, though, the difference maker for the Big East this year, in my opinion, will be Creighton, because somebody needs to be a meaningful challenger to Villanova. And, for the most part, Villanova has run away with this thing ever since realignment. And, while that's obviously great for Jay Wright and the Wildcats, it gives the perception that the league is top heavy and not deep like the Big Ten or the Big 12. So, if Creighton can really be, a Sweet 16 and beyond type of team this year, and I believe that they can be.
They can. Zagorowski's great, and they have when you can shoot, you can beat anybody on any given day.
Right. Except for one thing. Villanova shows up every game against any opponent methodically and culturally expecting to win. Like, what's been built there now supersedes the individuals on the board. Like, it's inconceivable to me that you can lose your best player, in this case Sadiq Bey, and get better. But they are.
It's coaching.
And there's no more fundamentally perfect program in the country right now than Villanova, and this is coming from a St. Joe's guy.
Providence continues to figure out ways to finish in the top 5 or 6 every year. He can coach.
Yes.
Xavier, like I mentioned, is better than a lot of people thought they would be. Marquette they look, if you just watch them getting off the bus, they look like an NBA team. I mean, they look good. They're playing the part. The Big East is going to be fun this year. I just hope, like I said, I hope my squad can at least get involved in this at some point.
Well, maybe they need to have a best of 7 with Georgetown. That seems to be working well.
And those games were both fun.
I know.
Except
for Patrick Ewing.
Well, I think we'll win as long as he doesn't go on the floor. I think he could still drop 20 on us. We have no big man.
Yeah. He looks like he wants to go out there.
Amen. To finish up here, I mentioned Mercer before. Anybody that pops out, I love the Missouri Valley. I can't believe there's no one that's really popping.
It was gonna be Northern Iowa.
Yeah.
And they lost 3 really close games, hard-fought games in that South Dakota thing. And now their best players out. And then they had a pause. They do not have a path to an at-large. They just got to try and get whole to give Loyola Chicago a challenge, and I don't think it's going to happen. But Loyola really hasn't had much of an opportunity. They've got 2 or 3 non-Division I games on their resume because they couldn't schedule.
Yeah, the Mountain West really, even the MAC. I know I saw Akron, the other day. They look okay. I mean, but it's, normally at this time I have like 2 or 3 teams in my back pocket that I'm ready to bust out for the bracket. Man, I'm stuck right now. Maybe other than St. Louis, but everybody's going to be on St. Louis. And again, I don't consider them a mid-major.
I'll give you one, and I don't consider them a mid-major either. But I think BYU is going to be really good.
You know, I watched BYU because they beat St. John's this year. They're really good. And you know what I like about them better than in years past? They actually defend a little. You know, in the past, it seemed like they were going to go down and get 90, but give up 92 against a good team. But they're actually defending a little. He's a
really good coach.
Yeah. I think Mercer's might end up being my pick if they get in.
All right, I'm going to keep an eye on that.
Joe, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it, and thank you for your time. Sir. And sometime in late February, early March, we'll bring you back on when this is a little bit more decided.
Thank you.
Joe Lunardi, ladies and gentlemen, joining us from ESPN, and you've been listening to the Sergio Rodriguez Show, a show unlike any other.